God is a title, not a name, which means boss or chief with supernatural powers over some person or persons, some place or places, or something or things. Isn't the sun over us all, the most high, of all the things in our daily vision? When nature is referred to as God, not named God, using the religionist word and title, it means the God of all gods, Neter Shil Neteru, or Naturu Shil Naturat, the nature of nature. The angels, messengers, of the true God, to use the Caucasian power word, are thus the gods and goddesses in infinite eternal almighty nature known as absolute nature, the one supreme being. So, although ghost God is in absolute nature also, their creation story is not ours. God etymologically means ghost or ghosthood, which is the death of all spiritual, mental, physical deaths. So the scribes of this manual use it with another force of definition and mental reference, which is, anyone, person, or anything, thing, in control of anyone else, persons, or anything else, things, or generally speaking, the head or boss member of any group of persons or things. We do not worship three ether ghost God forces and totally reject them all. Ghost God did not create anything from nothing like it says in the Caucasians' unholy Bible. The truth is that the sun grew us all from its emanating 9 ether fires from itself, visibly seen as prominence, and the Ethiopian Tite race, by reason, is the most prominent race by nature in all worlds anywhere and everywhere. As all of us are direct descendants of the sons of nature in their most potent ether strength in infinite almighty eternal absolute nature, this process is referred to as atomic fusion in mundane science. Now, the same thing happens on a metaphysical level with our father Amenubi Rakapta, Amun Nubi Ruach Ptah, also called Neter, Ephrati Adam Re, who is the writer-philosopher of Fru Unu. The sacred master grew us all to be like him, by metaphysical Adam Re, atomic fusion or immaculate conception, natural insemination, from his own ejaculate, Ijakai the Seaman/Semu, Sem priesthood, are immaculately conceived or fertilized by ejaculations of mental ether fire energy philosophically called his tongue of fire, and are gestated in revolution. On the top half of the circle of existence, Adamta, starting at point 6 east and ending at point 6 west, counterclockwise, the flesh and blood gods and goddesses are born from the physical visible sons of nature emanating higher ether fire formulas, thus their solar biology represent the 12 divisions in origination and derigination. The strength of solar biology is dependent on the ether fire formula of the cycle or season of almighty absolute nature when all space, matter, and time exist simultaneously, in degrees. The top half of the circle is thus labeled with the parts of the flesh and blood body parts of these pygmy gods and goddesses. The problem with overstanding this is that some just see the 360 degrees of the lower circle called the Zoop, which encompasses the zodiac, or Leviathan's animal power through sex, lust. Remember, the last 6 zodiac signs are rising. Asaru, Osiris, Aset, Isis, Haru, Horus, etc. all occupy position on the Phoenician Egyptian pantheon and zodiac half circle, long-term zodiac, on the bottom half of the circle of existence, specifically the last 6,000 years of the Virgo epoch, 3 million years itself, not the originating cosmological half circle, 360 degrees, on the top half. The Osirian cycle myth, a death cycle, did not exist until certain Phoenician, both Dravidian/Brown or Albino/Ghost, dynasties of Egypt, at which time the increasing spirit powers and forces, 6 ethereal, of the pantheistic Phoenician Egyptians was supplanting the pre-dynastic, Neolithic, Ethiopian Egyptian spirit powers and forces, 9 ethereal, Nubians, Ethiopian tides, true Africans, not migrants from Asia. Their pantheon is not ancient at all, thus the Dendra zodiac or circle of animals has to be a modern expression, i.e. no older than 6,000 years, or of the moon cycle. The Greek Egyptians, Jews, stole all of these sciences from African peoples via the Phoenician Egyptians who preceded them. They only had a partial understanding because of their 333 mentality, we have an overstanding because of our 999 mentality. 9, mind you, by definition, the zodiac and mundane astrology is the band divided into 12 equal parts called signs, each 30 degrees wide, bearing the name of a constellation for which it was originally named, but with which it no longer coincides owing to the precession of the equinoxes, thus it's outdated and obsolete. There was also a 13th zodiac sign, which actually was the 9th sign of the true solar zodiac, some say 10th, and was acknowledged by the Greek Jew astronomers, specifically Claudius Ptolemy in his book Almagest, called Ophiuchus, and Serpentarius in Latin, meaning snake holder or healer. In fact, Ophiuchus is a sun sign in the real solar zodiac, i.e. the sun can be seen against the stars of Ophiuchus between November 30th and December 17th each year. Remember, the Greek Jews were taught astronomy by the Phoenician Egyptians, and they were taught by the Ethiopians Egyptians/Africans. In modern mundane astronomy, the zodiacal constellations are characterized, named, and accepted as visual groupings of stars on a two-dimensional plane, and with no natural significance. They observe the sky without any perception of its depth perception. Two stars that are neighbors in a constellation are usually not even in close proximity to each other if seen three-dimensionally. Star clusters and star systems are minor exceptions. All of these pseudosciences are spellbinding if not naturally viewed in conjunction with absolute nature, which the pre-dynastic Ethiopian Egyptians called Neter-Shil Neteru, or nature of nature. According to the round zodiac ceiling of the Temple of Hathor at Dendra by Joanne Conman, 2002, the Temple of Hathor at Dendra dates from Ptolemaic times, probably the 1st centuries. The temple contains two well-known, but slightly different representations of the heavens. There is a round zodiac ceiling and a square zodiac in the outer hypostyle hall. The round zodiac ceiling shows the whole sky as it was understood by both Greek and Egyptian cultures. It shows the familiar constellations associated with the Greek astrological signs along with a number of other figures. They are carved on a disc that is supported by the goddesses of the 4 cardinal points and 8 falcon-headed gods. Along the edge of the circle, there is a procession of 36 figures that represent the spirits of the 36 Deccan stars, one corresponding to each of the Egyptians' 10-day weeks. The Egyptians used 36 bright stars that rose in the east just before sunrise to mark the start of their weeks. A new star rose about every 10 days. This outer ring of decans is meant to show the concordance of the Deccan stars with the Greek astrological zodiac. Certain other figures on the ceiling, such as the hippo and the foreleg in the center, are indigenous to Egypt, dating back to the earliest astral records we have, some 2,000 years before this round zodiac. Deities indigenous to Egypt that are associated with certain stars or times are also shown on the ceiling. True solar biology, sun knowledge, entails that we focus on the sons of nature, appointed by absolute nature, because it is the source of light and life, and in that fact, the source of our biology. Focusing on the heavenly bodies like planets, satellites, moons, comets, stars, constellations, galaxies, or other universe orbs are secondary to the power of the 9 ether sons of nature, appointed by absolute nature, the parents of all universe orbs in all universes. Thus, the figures within the Dendra circle zodiac should actually represent the various elements of the Father Sun that gave birth to all persons, places, and things as it grows absolute nature into universe order. When you see the scientific facts, it destroys the mythology and spooky, ghost, lunar-based astrology. It only becomes true solar biology at point 6 east, Autumn Re, the first point of manifestation. What they follow today is the science called astronomy, renamed mundane science, astrology. Astronomy is the pantheistic form, astrology is the religious, ghostism form. All things can be seen in nature's perfect form, the circle, as the 9 ball of the nature of nature. Ophiuchus, known as the serpent holder, is one of the 88 constellations, and was also one of the 48 listed by Ptolemy. Of the 13 zodiac constellations that can contain the sun during the course of a year, Ophiuchus is the only one which is not counted as an astrological sign. Ophiuchus is depicted as a man supporting a snake, serpens. The inner position of his body divides the snake into 2 parts, serpens caput and serpens cauda, which are nonetheless counted as one constellation. The brightest stars in Ophiuchus include Alpha Ophiuchi, called Razelhag, Ras Al-Hawa, head of the serpent charmer, at the figure's head, and Ophiuchi, a triple star, at his elbow. Ophiuchi, a star too faint to interest amateur sky watchers, is part of a strange class called recurrent novas, whose brightness increases at irregular intervals by hundreds of times in a period of just a few days. Noticeable feature: Barnard's star, the 5th nearest star to the solar system, lies in Ophiuchus. If we were to observe Earth's sun from Tau Ceti, it would appear as a 2.54 magnitude star in Ophiuchus. The figure is supposed to represent the legendary physician Asclepius, who learned the secrets of life and death from one serpent bringing another some herbs which healed it. Asclepius had previously tried to kill it. In order to avoid the human race becoming immortal under Asclepius's care, Zeus eventually killed him with a bolt of lightning, but placed him in the heavens to honor his good works. The involvement in the myth of Chiron may be connected to the nearby presence of the constellation Sagittarius, which was in later times occasionally considered to represent Chiron, who was more usually identified as the constellation Centaurus. It is not, however, easy to find the figure of a man in these stars without some diligence, since Ophiuchus is intersected by serpents, parts of which some people identify as the base of Ophiuchus' torso, making identification of other parts quite difficult, rather than a snake below it. This constellation, known from antiquity, is one of the 48 constellations described by Ptolemy. It has also been known as Serpentarius, a Latin form of its name. The most important historical event in Ophiuchus was the supernova 1604, also named Kepler's supernova, whose explosion was first observed on October 9, 1604, near Ophiuchus. Johannes Kepler saw it first on October 16, but studied it so extensively that the supernova was subsequently named after him. He published his findings in a book entitled De Stella Nova in Peggi Serpentarii, on the new star in Ophiuchus's foot. Galileo used its brief appearance to counter the Aristotelian dogma that the heavens are changeless. It occurred only 32 years after another supernova in Cassiopeia that had been observed by Tycho Brahe. The last supernova before then had occurred in 1054, and after Kepler's no further supernovae were observed until 1987. Ophiuchus is always shown with his foot resting on Scorpius, the scorpion. This is especially apt. In Greek star lore, the earth goddess Gaia sends Scorpius to kill Orion, the hunter, who has threatened to hunt down all the animals of the earth, a tale with resonance for modern times. Scorpius stings Orion, who would have died had it not been for the intervention of Aesculapius, Ophiuchus. Aesculapius gives Orion a sip of the divine elixir and restores him to health. The even older Babylonian version is slightly different. Here the serpent is Tiamat, the monster of the bitter ocean. Holding Tiamat is Marduk, the sun god of the Babylonians. They are doing battle together in the eternal fight of good against evil. So the sun actually has many metaphysical or multidimensional phases. Nupu/Nupu, Nu, heaven, life/sun, 999 to 9 ether. Zupu/Zupu, Logos, Zeus, hell, death/moon, 666 to 6 ether. 9 ether and 9 reason. Nupu, Nu, is the first emanation, primary creator, for the one supreme being, eternal infinite unique almighty absolute nature, and 6 reason and 6 ether. Zupu, Zeus, is the second emanation, the secondary evolution creator, who is called Logos by occult writers and philosophers of mythology and theology. Nu, Nous, and Zeus, Zeus, are opposites by nature and in nature, and omnipotent omnipresent omniscient nature alternates their existences, meaning, half of time the universes of nature and the persons and things therein are ruled and controlled by 6 ether and 6 reason known as Zupu, Zeus. The other half of time, every other 36 million years, the universes and their offspring are ruled and controlled by 9 ether and 9 reason known as Nupu, Nu, the original prime mover and originator of universe order, that is, the universes and the original persons and things thereof. 9 reason. Nupu is also the mental resurrector of dead minds, those knowing not the true knowledge of nature and its laws. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Beyond what you physically see as the sun, it exists in darkness, jet black, and is composed of undetectable ether, a mere theory to the best of their scientists. It is undetectable by those who depend on the light alone for insight, not the outsight born of the darkness and the realization that both of them exists in absolute nature as opposites, just as Nupu, no 1 or 9 power, and Zupu, zone or animal power, are opposite powers of absolute nature that alternate and alterate in season cycles. Our journey is towards higher ether on the right, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, all the way up to 9 ether, in darkness, ether and gas manifestations, not towards being more elementally solid in light, an illusion called mass. Mass is also religiously linked to a spiritual ritual of control to bind your inner sun on the day called Sunday. Remember, a Tumri, 0.6 east, is symbolic of birth, a Tunri, 0.9 north, is symbolic of life, a Moonri, 0.6 west, is symbolic of death, and the sacred seat of Ri, a Nunri, 0.3 south, is symbolic of rebirth, which makes the sun ever living as it recycles itself. The fourth Ri is easy to forget or mentally reject. You must listen to reason. The sun never dies permanently, it was just made to look that way for them. Sound familiar? Remember, this process of almighty nature created the flesh and blood gods and goddesses called Tides of the originary and deriginary cycle, who procreated, immaculate conception, the Ethiopian race of the evolutionary cycle, and fertilizes demigods and goddesses, Nunibus, of the revolutionary cycle. The sons of nature, true stars, undergo scientific death at 0.6 west, a moon rock position, where they begin to emanate negative 6 ether energy and creates evolutionary spirit forces, water spirits, mankind races, and the Negroes, negative growth, dead-minded Ethiopians, who they controlled through religion in the evolutionary cycle. These were indeed the Yu.Shum.Gal who incarnated here after being cast from the sons of nature as 6 ether Leviathanite forces. According to the highest form of reason, which is sound right reason, that is, the 9 power called Nu-Pu, whose ethereal philosophy science is no-one/none. Physical or visible creation presupposes and facilitates a physical or visible creator, and that creator, grower of all things into shapes and forms of gases, elements, atoms, molecules, compounds, etc., is the Supreme Father Sun called A.Nu in ancient Sumerian cosmology and Akkadian pantheism, and Re in ancient Phoenician, Egyptian or Tamarine pantheism. This is Ptah-Nun, who created the Ened, and also Re, Autumn, in the Ethiopian Egyptian, Memphite, cosmology, Nuba, prehistoric Africa. Now the understanding down through evolution may have changed, but the essential facts are universal. Ptah-Nun, the 9th dimensional 999 sun force, in the Memphite cosmology, pre-dynastic science compiled by Pharaoh Shabaka, scientifically means the opener Ptah, who comes forth from the chaotic waters, earths, winds, and ether fires, and from which all things grow shiny jet black, Ptah/Ta, Tar. The name Ta, baby, was never so worthy of Ethiopians, or welcomed. Man comes out of water, thus God had to have come out of waters also, the womb of Nun, a sea of ether fires by way of egg formulas. We are one with our original 9 ether emanating Father, thus revolve as he does. In its many phases of the day, the sun represents life and light, and it even exists when it is hidden in the period of shadow hours, in the darkness of the womb of Nun. It is ever living because when you awake every morning, it is there. The same statement about the sun would be said by every one of your family that came before you, living or dead, that is, they all saw the sun in its strength, at the perceivable time. It is undisputedly the most vital of all visibly or physically seen things in space, matter, and time. It is also the ever-loving because it does not differentiate between its sons and daughters, things it grew, the Ethiopian tides and all races and life forms, raising them up in ether fire strength through solar flares raining down out of heaven, like Sunspot 720. Acknowledging this reality alone will cut past 99.9% of the spookism that plagues the world today in the form of religion, spook worship. Things should be getting clearer. The evolutionary quarter and the last moon cycle is over. This is revolution upwards. Monotheistic religions are laced with pantheism, however they do not take you past the Father Son to the one supreme being that appointed him, as well as all heavenly bodies or universe orbs everywhere, and that one supreme being is absolute nature omnipotently, omnisciently, and omnipresently. They do however mention in religion, in a tainted form, that you can't get to the Father, the one supreme being, without going through the Son/Son, being the way, the truth, and the light and life in all persons. These misconceptions are how religion took control in the moon cycle. They are moon cycle spirit beings called ghosts who all exist in nature and who very well know that they are not above the one supreme being. They are too limited to be almighty nature itself. However, they do what they do according to the nature of nature, or their positive or negative nature in almighty nature. Spirit beings like to survive well with pleasure and honor, and they can do this best way of religion, and if your prayer does not enhance this status, it does not get fulfilled. In other words, human beings are pawns to be used for their survival as far as spirit beings are concerned, and this view in fact can be undenied and verified throughout religious history and mythology. Of course, the main reason for spirits causing violence, suffering, and bloodshed is for subsistence known as nutrition, plus the fact that some spirits are sadistic, take pleasure in seeing people suffer. So then, the question does arise, without their dying science religion, what will spirit beings do? Well, it is not like religion is suddenly going to disappear. Religion will revolve into no one like religion evolved out of pantheism. Spirit beings know the nature of nature much better than human beings, therefore, they know indeed what time it is, the ending of the moon cycle and the beginning of the Libra cycle.